are CLG if they want to try and grab this one back from Space Station. Remember, this game is absolutely critical for Space Station. They need this set so that they can try and beat Splice next week and get that #2 spot.
Also, keep in mind here, though, that this is actually going to be Space Station getting the first pick selection yet again. CLG not wanting to take it. Instead, they want to be the ones responding to the draft from Space Station, and it seems like Space Station's choosing to keep things fairly similar to last time around, at least for the first couple of picks and bans, because Athena and Cerberus are not going to have any chance of making it out onto the battlefield.
And those are two strong bans. Take those two Guardians away from CLG. You don't want to have to worry about either one of those. Baron coming out from Chernobog, so they were not too deterred by this Freya, it would seem. But CLG picking second pick makes me think they either want these two bans on the back end of the Freya, the two picks I mean on the back end of the Freya, or the last pick selection, particularly for a counter pick. So I want to keep my eyes on those two, as well as the last one, as there it is, Pele comes through, and Space Station value the Freya over the Pele.
In case anyone was wondering why the Baron Chernobog bans were chosen, or at least keeping the Chernobog, but Baron, CLG trying to take their chances with this Pele instead, and they're also going to make sure that Jeff's not going to be able to block off any more of Homiefe's ultimates with that Mercury. It feels like these two teams are just exchanging God pools entirely.
Jeff's pretty good at Terra.
He's
pretty good at the game.
At Terra.
Pretty good at the game of Smite. So yeah, take that away from my man's Mercury. Going to be handing over to andinster. That is bad news, Bears. If you are on the other side of the road, I imagine the Golden Blade will be picked up right away, and much pain will be brought to his opponents. They also have the Mercury, which could be potentially strong to try and slow down this, or not the Mercury, sorry, the Artio, to slow down this Terra.
I like the Vulcan pickup here, though, for CLG. Not certain if this is going to be for Hurriwind or if it might even end up in the duo lane, because Snoopy has dabbled in that ADC Vulcan from time to time as well. So that does leave some flexibility here for CLG in the remainder of their draft, but I do want to see another initiation type god, whether it's a Guardian or a Warrior. Just something that can provide a little bit of backup there so that it's not solely dependent upon Jigz to be the one initiating every team fight.
And there was a lot of pressure, I felt like, on Jigz last game to sort of control that, I believe, on the Sylvanas, so we'll see if they can match it, as Ullr is going to come out for Snoopy this time into the Hunter position. So Vulcan will be the traditional mid. A bit surprising they took the Vulcan that early, but if they also wanted Ullr, I mean, that wasn't going to get banned away, so no real reason to rush it. And now a chance for the counter pick as Achilles comes in along with the Artio they already had selected, and the Morrigan.
Morrigan is something that I think Venenu will always be happy about having a chance to play, so that's got to be Freya for BaRRaCCuDDa then, and Magical ADC versus Magical ADC perhaps, because with that Ullr having been locked in, I am fairly convinced that that's going to be Hurriwind's Ullr mid, Snoopy on the Vulcan, simply because I don't really pin a Hurriwind as much of a Vulcan player. I think that Snoopy definitely has a lot more preference towards that god.
There's a chance for sure.
I feel like it's leaning in that direction, but of course I could always be wrong. Teams love coming up with a bunch of surprises when the games actually break out, but the Sobek pickup, that's the secondary form of initiation slash peel and disengage that I think we were looking for from CLG.
No, absolutely. This Sobek pick brings a lot of life, I would say, to this draft now, because now there's room for the Vulcan and for the Ullr to try and operate along with this Sobek. But is that enough to win you over? Who do you think is going to win this game? Vote for CLG or Space Station in Mixer Chat now while you got the chance. And Taco, real quick, who's got this one, Space Station or CLG?
I think based off how the first game went, it might be Space Stations to take home.
Sounds like maybe the 2-0 could be happening. At least that's what we think on the desk. Let's go ahead and get it over to Aggro and Anatoly to cast the game.
Game 2, Space Station CLG. Space Station needs to confirm it. They want to go into their final week showdown up against Splice with an auto qualification to DreamHack on the line. CLG, on the other hand, no hopes of finishing top 2, but certainly hopes of getting some momentum before the placement stages where they will be playing as Barra and Ven again starting in the mid lane.
And transitioning into a couple of invades afterwards immediately. And at least JeffHindla can slow down some of the pressure from Jigz and Snoopy to separate the red buff timer. Picking up the red buff will be BaRRaCCuDDa. It looks like JeffHindla gonna just make sure that there's no red buff invade, so Space Station should get 2 red buffs for themselves.
Space Station definitely will end up a bit more on top than they were last time. So they actually managed to secure both mids there as well over Hurriwind's pressure.
Great start.
90% think Space Station is going to win it again. But chat, Jigz might be the one to block a Merc ult this time.
How would you feel about that?
I'd
Would it be then Jigz to be the best player in the world?
Yeah, of course. That's how that works. The last player to block a Mercury ult with a Terra monolith is the best player in the world at any given time.
Fair enough.
That's how that goes. It's pretty simple when you think about it.
Can you wait? Does decoy stop it? No, right? You'll
No.
go through it.
Yeah, you'll
Because I know you could pluck a decoy.
You can, but that stops on first player hit. Sonic Boom
Okay.
does not.
Fair enough.
Only stops on the walls. Jeff playing this this Artio, kind of taking a page out of Aurora's book. It's been very successful as of late for Splice in their duo lane, and not so successful in the mid lane for Homie, as he takes a spill to Ven and andinster in the 2v2. Lost the beads as well.
Ouch. That hurts a lot now for the early game momentum. Homiefe playing the Pele, trying to really rush what looks to be probably a shifter shield, honestly, and Hurriwind playing the Ullr. Can't really follow up too much now that he's only level 2, working on his Transcendence. Venenu playing the Morrigan, one of his stapled go-to picks, knows the ins and outs of the damage, and even with Book of Thoth, it's plenty of damage with a passive to chip away at Homiefe.
Let's take a look at the replay there for that first blood so we can understand exactly what happened to Homie in the midst of all that damage. Morrigan, not as bad as you'd think at level 2. Dark Omen's a hell of an ability, but really just Homie did not use the beads in response to special delivery from andinster.
That's true.
That's going to happen to you, as now Snoopy's got to use the beads of his own and now trying to juke around. Backfire creates some separation, but he's still in some trouble. Good route coming from Jigz, able to zone BaRRaCCuDDa away. Snoopy's got to use both relics. Jigz uses his sprint as well, but CLG's Hunter, well, ADC player playing a mage this time around, stays safe.
Well, realizing that Snoopy needs more movement speed, Jigz switches it up compared to game 1, goes for the sprint as opposed to the shell. Not really having to worry about a Sarkett in the beginning of the game, can worry about andinster later stages. The shell will be upgraded. I love 12.
This quick cooldown boots rush from Snoopy. So we've seen this a little bit in solo lane, where you don't pick up a blessing. You just start with boots 2 and then immediately teleport back to lane. But there's no teleport for Snoopy. He had to walk back after this. It lets him get a health chalice, which I think will help him in the laning phase. But is it really that he just really wanted a health chalice in this lane? Why do we see this start for Snoopy?
It's possible, considering that BaRRaCCuDDa is going to be looking for poke. You want to avoid JeffHindla from rooting you into play, so you had to time either the backfire to get away from the root or the knockup to prevent that ticks. So yeah, the health chalice will keep this mage ADC, quote unquote, air quotes, in the laning phase a little bit longer, and more importantly, just to spam the abilities, as it gives you mana. I don't think BaRRaCCuDDa should be in the easiest of times.
Snoopy also working on a lost artifact now. The kind of default build for Vulcan as of late has been Book of Thoth, the boots, and a Bancroft, or a Bumba's Mask rather. Jeff takes a lot of poke.
Yeah. Would have been even more if Snoopy can get off the backfire earlier. That cripple minefield is going to prevent, your escapes, and backfire is considered an escape. It displaces you even a few feet.
It's a movement ability, so Cripple will prevent you from using it. I don't know. I guess Snoopy's going full cooldown Vulcan. That's got to be the idea here, right? Because there's no way this is a Rod of Tahuti. Could actually be a Doom Orb as a cheap 1,700 gold item. Gives him movement speed, something as a bridge item. I don't think I'd mind that. I don't know how I feel about this full cooldown idea, though. Book of Thoth is slow in the duo lane, but duo laners are normally slow anyways,
synergizing
right?
with the Vulcan passive, the more abilities you confirm, you're just going to keep getting that movement speed going from the passive for the MP5 going to spam those abilities. And if that's what CLG wants to rely on, I don't necessarily fault them.
Cool little interaction there. Ben uses his own decoy to block the axe stun from Hurriwind. Just stare down the Ullr and use decoy whenever you feel like you'll be able to, whenever the axe is coming. Ven able to get rid of one of the best ways Ullr has to play the mid lane, which is just kill the opponent. Now he's got to worry about JeffHindla, but Jeff shows himself pretty early in that situation. Maybe could have come in and laid down the cripple if he wanted to try and get that kill.
Force the beads maybe potentially after the fact, but still gets the jump out of Hurriwind. Not really too much pressure onto the mid laner, despite finding the one kill onto Homiefe. Not seeing too many invades outside of the very first one that Spacestation Gaming did. Aquarius playing a very aggressive style on the Achilles, which is what he's known for, honestly. Transitioning from the Sun Wukong last game to even more burst he got this game. Just watch out for him and his fatal strikes.
Aqua definitely has become one of, if not the premier aggressive soul laners in the SPL. I mean, it feels like everybody's transitioning into this. Baron and Sobek and those sorts of gods, the Jonquils of the world in the solo lane. And don't forget, Aqua was like the first Chang'e main there was in the solo lane, so he has that potential for sure, but as of late, it's been Achilles and Wukong and Kukulkan and all that kind of stuff. SSG seems to really like Aqua getting that big lead in the early game.
Just goes to show that there is no defined meta in the solo lane. It's just all about your preference, how you want to transition it into team fights, how you want to bait out some of these players. fineokay eating a tower shot with a nice little stun. Aquarius really good mechanically, showing it off a little there.
Homie was lurking, and that's why fineokay is willing to even try and go for that under tower pluck. A little bit unsuccessful, but he's Sobek, so who cares? That's kind of what Sobek does.
Yep.
He doesn't really care how much damage he's going to take, because it probably won't be enough to kill him, at least in the 1v1. Maybe if Andy heads on over. But Andy's actually going for a slightly different style on this Mercury. Ever since Golden Blade came out, it has been first item Golden Blade no matter what. Andy finishes the boots this time around first.
Just getting some more physical power for the scaling from the Major Look and the Sonic Boom. Spacestation Gaming going to pull the Gold Fury 7.5 minutes in. BaRRaCCuDDa wasn't here right away. Jigz with the Earthen Fury.
Gold getting lower, pulled out of range. Hurriwind from a distance shoots it all the way from downtown. Hail the arrows and steals it away with a cheeky little 3.
Wow.
How about that?
Well, Spacestation Gaming took the risk. They knew what they were getting themselves into. BaRRaCCuDDa was just a little too late to the party to secure that burst damage that you want out of your Freya that has this Hunter's Blessing.
Homie going aggressive up against Aqua, but Aqua willing to give it as good as he got. Blue buff still stolen, though, by Homiefe. Didn't need to be over there on the left-hand side for that Gold Fury pull because Hurriwind had it all under control, of course.
That's right. Transcendence Ullr, you know, not necessarily needing those Warrior Tabi to start things off. Just the scaling from this item, being able to also have 10% cooldown reduction so you can clear the wave and still make the stealing impact.
Does turn out to be a Doom Orb for Snoopy this time around. Really doubling down on that Vulcan passive, and if he goes Bumba's Mask from here, that's one speedy chef boy in the duo lane.
Hey, you got to keep up with those orders in the kitchen, man.
That's
They're not
right.
going to make themselves.
Man, chefs are quick. That is for sure. Even when you got a peg leg, man, it doesn't slow him down even a little bit. I was really not a believer in Bumba's Mask Vulcan, and I have been since convinced that it is not only good, but possibly optimal for Vulcan because he is just so darn fast, and his base damage is so good, plus the scaling, that it doesn't really make him lose too much. May look a little strange there, but Snoopy uses the ultimate to clear the wave because he was going to get zoned from that wave, and actually perfect timing because andinster was hunting him on that side.
Perfect timing there. Snoopy just covering all his options there. And on top of having all the mobility in the world for Snoopy between getting Russian cooldown reduction boots, ignoring any sort of blessing, getting the Doom Orb, thinking about the Bumba's Mask, you also got to think of the turret. That's going to do a lot of damage in its own right that you don't necessarily need all that power for.
I'm going to throw you for a loop, Toli, which I often try not to do because I hate it when it's done to me. Do you know if pets inherit the Bumba's Mask negative effects?
I have no clue.
You know if the turret does less damage and takes less damage? I've got no idea either, so I'm sorry for throwing us both
it
under
gets
the bus.
pen, right? It gets pen from you, I would assume?
I
think it does.
It used to. We changed those rules, and that's where we buffed Vulcan very recently.
Gotcha.
It now just has penetration innately as part of the pet.
So then I would assume no. It doesn't take effect from the Bumba's passive of dealing less or more.
That's interesting. I got to do some testing on that one. CLG testing andinster on this right-hand side. Hurry had the hail of arrows, but andinster out of range. Did cost him the purification beads, though. Good axe from Hurriwind on this Ullr in the mid lane. And a lot of times you think of Ullr, you know, you get to level 8, level 9, 0, 0, and 0. You're even with your lane opponent. Experiment failed, but it's really not that simple, I don't think.
Oh, I agree. All that thought, though, Snoopy. Look at play aggressive for the first time in this laning phase. But yeah, Hurriwind has been making the plays so far, despite his jungler taking an early spill where he stole the Gold Fury, where he's forcing the Purification Beads from andinster. So there's 2-minute window where CLG could catch out Andy slipping.
Then looking for Hurry in the mid lane potentially, but Hurriwind gonna give him the business there with the axe, man. If andinster wasn't there, you might see Hurriwind just jump in and go for it.
I think the Hail of Arrows missed, and that would have been very close, if not lethal entirely, onto Venenu getting full comboed.
Does force Ven back to base either way. Traditional build so far for Venenu. He's going for that Book of Thoth right away. Snoopy still hasn't back to base for quite some time as andinster steals both mid-harpies away. I'm very curious on where Snoopy's going to go next with this build, but BaRRa's not going to let him back right now. In fact, he's going to put some damage onto him, though not a whole lot to write home about. Freya definitely does need some ramp-up time these days.
A little bit. So does Vulcans, honestly. They're not going to be making the biggest impact. And when's the last time we saw Vulcan ADC? It might have been Season 2 Vulcan from Snoopy.
I think
Sadman's did it not
I
so
think
long ago.
Panacat did it this as well, but certainly outside of that has been a little bit. Homiefe in a little bit of trouble. Has to use Volcanic Lightning to get away. Ven also in trouble in the mid lane. Axe is good, but beads are better. Ven's still up. It has to transform as a way to get some health back. It's showtime for Venenu. He's going to use that glory to heal himself back up. Cost him an ultimate, so certainly worthwhile for Hurriwind.
And he gets the wave under that tier 1 tower, so he doesn't sacrifice any farm. Aquarius going to get plucked in.
Take 2.
To a little bit of trouble as Homie at base here, but no ultimate for Homie to really chase this one down.
Snoopy has the Bumba's Mask, and can you tell? Because he's getting chunked right now. Andy going to bring him back. Earth and Fury is solid. Aegis as well, but BaRRA had Valkyrie's discretion all along. A solo kill with some help, so not really a solo kill for BaRRaCCuDDa on that left-hand side. Snoopy a little bit too far pushed up on the Vulcan.
Too many bodies, and sometimes too much movement speed can be a crutch where you put yourself out of position thinking that you can get out of danger effortlessly, specifically on a lot of Giannis players relying on the threshold and those portals. Could see, or that's what we basically saw from Snoopy, just caught between a rock and a hard place.
Bumba's Mask, great for when you're on the offensive, but on the defensive won't do you a whole lot of good a lot of times.
Not with that much control coming out of Spacestation Gaming.
In fact, let's take a look at the replay and see just how far up Snoopy was in that moment. I mean, he's all the way at the enemy purple. That's not the place you want to be.
And the thing is, he barely stepped there, too. He just transitioned from the lane just to poke his head around that corner. That's the worst feeling. Where you're like, hey, guys, what's going on in this thread?
You hate to see it. You really do.
It's not like he was invested into invading a purple buff or the red buff either.
Well, despite Spacestation being up 2 kills to none, Blink, Pluck, delivered by fineokay, chases the beads out from andinster. It's CLG who's got the lead, nearly 2,000 gold.
That's right.
In the lead, in fact. It's that Gold Fury steal by Hurriwind that brought into their position in the first place, but ever since then, they've just been out farming.
And also the Pyromancer that CLG got not too long ago, being able to bully out certain members, specifically in that dual lane that Snoopy did die.
Snoopy zooming right now. BaRRaCCuDDa doesn't get rooted because of a perfect cripple from JeffHindla, but BaRRA still in some trouble. fineokay finds the pluck onto Jeff as CLG seem a little bit split on their target focus. andinster tears through, gets a beads from Hurriwind, and will meet up with Venenu on the top side to give himself a little bit of extra help. And look at this rotation in from Aquarius. Might find fineokay without Fine really being ready. That'll cost him lurking in the waters. The chase not on quite yet from SSG.
No, not quite yet. They don't want to invest into any tower dives, but they do walk away with the purple buff. At the very least, Gold Fury is back up. Spacestation Gaming are flirting with danger because CLG are coming from the left, right, and center.
Homie coming around that right-hand side. Watch out for him on the bottom side of your screen. Watch out for Jigz and fineokay because they're both very low. And Snoopy crushes down Venenu before the transformation goes off. Homie in some trouble, but JeffHindla and Aqua have got to try to get away. Homie finally joins the fray and immediately sends andinster pack in. fineokay, welcome back to the fight. And andinster's Aegis might just be enough to save his life. Aqua has no such Aegis. He falls. Homie walks right into BaRRaCCuDDa's damage.
Ouch.
So it's a 3 for 2, still in favor of CLG, but looks likely that they can still pick up gold.
Oh, they should definitely be able to. Between Snoopy and Hurriwind, they can juggle this aggro very cleanly if they want to, but fineokay, surprisingly enough, not with them, going for the tier 1 mid tower instead.
BaRRaCCuDDa double whoop, resets gold, big damage onto Hurriwind, and the axe doesn't land. Snoopy now rooted beads a little bit too late, and BaRRaCCuDDa punishes Snoopy and Hurriwind. DPS just not quite there, and as you mentioned, fineokay not there to zone.
Sometimes it's not always a great idea to run it down mid for fineokay and the rest of his teammates, because they drop a Gold Fury, drop a kill, and what was a 3-for-2 in CLG's favor has now turned into a 3-for-3, but at least they do walk away with a tier 1 tower. I say it's still worth as long as Spacestation Gaming don't claim this next Gold Fury.
Well, they don't get it yet. Counter Logic still in the lead in the kill department. andinster's got to use beads. Can't toss Jigz. A little bit too much. A little bit too much to throw there when Terra's got her walls down, but SSG now going for Gold Fury.
Low center of gravity.
That's right.
She's really thick to be able to lift up.
Gold Fury getting low right away. Homie now sees what's going on, but can't get there in time. Spacestation get a Gold Fury that CLG just couldn't get in for. And it feels like CLG knew that was going on, I think, but just decided to give it up. I mean, fineokay's all the way on the right-hand side. Doesn't have teleport upgraded, so he can't get there very quickly. Snoopy was out of range.
Yep.
They didn't want Homie to commit by himself.
Snoopy was coming back from the fountain after the respawn. Aquarius doing a great job zoning Hurriwind away from any sort of hail of arrow, steal, cheeky plays for round number 2. CLG, though, walk away with another Pyromancer, their second one of the game, looking for a pick with fineokay's pluck.
They probably just heard Ven's Dark Omen. See a blink forward. Venenu, no beads. CC chain's good, but Ega still got off for Venenu. Transformation into the Sobek, not good enough. Hurriwind able to put an arrow right in the croc as Aqua's got to use Fatal Strike in order to get up and away. fineokay still frontlining, but no real danger for him. Danger, in fact, is in the mid lane for andinster, but Snoopy, despite being quick, not quicker than the fastest god alive.
Oh, definitely not that fast. Despite having the Bumbus Doom Orb and the Shoes of Focus, fineokay leading the charge. Vulcan ultimate just zoning Spacestation Gaming while the rest of his teammates going to get this tier 2 tower.
Stun onto BaRRaCCuDDa, knock-up follows, but tier 2 still up and healthy enough. And here's a huge sonic boom come andinster right through the middle of the team fight. Homie has got to get on his horse and run away. Ullr up and over the wall as well. Hurriwind splits towards the right, and somehow CLG only lose one after a sick ultimate from andinster.
Wow, fineokay's back's going to get canceled for 2 times in a row. Tier 1 tower being looked at. andinster chasing down Hurriwind. Not much he could do in that one. Ega's only buying him an extra second or so. And honestly, it was 2 things. One, a great ultimate from andinster. And number 2, it was a very premature ultimate out of Snoopy.
fineokay, now the focus underneath the tower, but he's who wants to be taking these cooldowns. Homie, not so much. He falls to Aquarius fairly quickly. fineokay just kind of got stacked up with Homiefe in that little corridor. Homie just got the ultimate up. I don't know if he had it during that engagement, but don't think he was ready for just how much AoE damage was coming his way.
Definitely not prepared. Spacestation Gaming walking away like bandits after multiple picks, after another tier 2 tower. andinster and Venenu, they're looking to commit to the tier 2 on the right side.
Vulcan ultimate just narrowly
Wow.
avoided by andinster. Wouldn't have done enough damage to bring him down. Remember, Snoopy doing percentage less damage with the Bumba's Mask in the build. I will say, CLG is now losing this game. Not by a lot, but they look a little bit more put together than they did against Splice. They looked lost earlier on this week, so this is somewhat encouraging for them, but they need to try and get something going here. And they'll go with the Fire Giant as the call. Seems ambitious with just a level 14 Ullr as your main objective DPSer. I mean, Snoopy's there as well, but he's not doing quite as much.
They really wanted to probably bait Venenu in a bad spot. Knowing his Aegis not available, maybe forcing out the beats was the goal. But CLG know how to just drop the fire aggro without taking too much damage. They reset it before that huge AoE damage starts to show up, because level 17/14 across the board would certainly put CLG's collective health pool much lower.
It doesn't feel like to me, let's put it this way. If I were on CLG and we've been underperforming all year, I don't know that it's super important that we win this set. I think just getting marginally better after the train wreck that was the set against Splice, I think is probably good enough for me, in at least my mindset into this set. Would you feel the same way if you were on CLG?
Possibly. You can't really tell what's going on behind closed doors, how CLG is approaching this. They're definitely in it to win it. Competitive players are not in here to just drop games.
No.
That hurts your pride at the end of the day. It hurts more to lose a game than it feels good to win a game. And knowing all these players in here, they're giving it their 110%, despite what records might be for CLG, despite them not being able to confirm the top 2 to avoid placements. They want to know what works and what doesn't and still win.
Of course, I'm not implying that CLG is not trying their hardest to win this set. All I mean is that at this point, wins are near inconsequential for CLG. They're seeding somewhat important, but really they know they're going to placements, and it's just about getting as good as possible right before placements. And I don't think that all losses are created equal in that regard.
That's what you can tell yourself after you lose a game,
Sure.
But you're not going in with that mentality.
Sure.
Thinking that like, oh, it's okay if we lose this game. But yes, I kind of agree with you that it's comforting to know that after a loss to Space Station, potentially, as they are down 0-1, that you can look back like, yeah, we got placements.
Still got placements to go, and CLG certainly a team that could make some noise at those placement stages. Feels like CLG is kind of a wild card there.
Yeah.
You don't really know what to expect. They could show up and look like the best team at placements, including the 3rd and 4th seeds out of Europe. They could show up and not make it to DreamHack at all. It's so hard to call.
If anyone's going to pop off at LAN for CLG, it's got to be Snoopy. My man has so much LAN experience since the COG Red days, almost beating out COG Prime at that first World Championship. And CLG is still very frisky with some of these objective calls.
Sonic Boom this time only hits Homie, but it still gets his beats. There's another one coming from Venenu. What's better than one Sonic Boom, you ask? How about 2 Sonic Booms? But it's still not enough quite yet, but fineokay is getting very low. Shell was able to keep him up through Valkyrie's discretion, and fineokay actually does manage to escape, but man, CLG drained the bank account in order to get out of that one. I mean, nearly every relic expended in order to stay up. See, SSG had to use a lot on their own as well.
Just because Homiefe is playing the Polynesian goddess Pele doesn't mean the rest of the team needs to be playing with fire as well. These calls have been super risky and on the edge. They're lucky to walk away here without a single death.
Cost them quite a bit. Egg is still up for Hurry and Snoopy, but outside of that, looking pretty thin on the relics. fineokay does have that blink up, should he look for a pluck. However, I do wonder, I mean, is CLG's composition... This is something that I don't think we really talk about that much, that is very relevant. Is this composition better than Space Station's at fighting without relics? If you just removed all the relic buttons, which team composition would have the better fight? I think it's still probably Space Station. But
oh yeah, BaRRaCCuDDa's DPS, Andinster's DPS. If you can't Aegis, Andinster, BaRRaCCuDDa.
Let's find out. Snoopy, no beads, but Andy doesn't keep the chase going because Homie was there. I really thought that Andy would try and keep that going.
Yeah, hands down, no relics, Spacestation Gaming win that fight.
Plenty of CC on top of the damage that they bring. Andy has been thirsting for this tier 2 tower on the left-hand side, but has been unsuccessful in getting it so far, but he has been successful in drawing over various members of CLG. They've been sending different members just about every time to try and stop him.
He can just walk in there if he really wants to, and then Sonic Boom his way out. It's going to take 2, maybe 3 hits on the left-hand side, but instead, knowing Homiefe is all the way committed to the defense, could look to just soak up some farm in the mid lane and then start to rotate on the solo side, where the rest of Space Station Gaming are thinking about going for some objective, whether it's the tower, Fire Giant, or Pyromancer has still to be determined.
Space Station really hasn't done a whole lot of initiating so far this game. They're just kind of waiting around until CLG does something weird.
It's kind of their thing. They just kind of wait around and allow you to fall into your own trap, which CLG has set up a few of their own traps, whether it was at the Fire Giant, that Goal Fury earlier, which didn't net into any kills for Space Station, but Space Station are fine with that. They just want to get that gold and think about more of that late game team fighting aspect. You can give more gold to andinster on the Mercury, give more gold to BaRRaCCuDDa on the Freya, you're sitting pretty if you're on the order side.
SSG definitely has the lead, but the lead isn't a whole lot right now. I mean,
experience is still pretty solid as well.
Experience still pretty solid for sure. Hurriwind being only level 17 is very relevant, but overall, it still feels like CLG is right there in this match. Both Hunters level 20, both Junglers level 20, both Solos level 20.
I just don't value the Ullr in the late game compared to like any other Hunter, really.
Certainly has his struggles in the late game, primarily Then he has to switch
The
stance.
one time I've seen a good late game Ullr pop off was Zatman against Obey Alliance at Worlds. I believe it was, where he was like 1v2ing. I think he had Aussie in his axe stance and was just able to lifesteal his way back into the fight.
Well, you know what they say. That's why Zatman went to Worlds and Zatman didn't.
Yes.
It's getting to the end of the day here on Friday, Tully. Of course, I'm going to give you something you have to roll your eyes at. And we got through a lot today.
We did. We were pretty good.
We were pretty good.
We were good boys.
Could have been worse, that's for sure. Well, there's still time in this game. Who knows how much longer?
We could be into a game 3, depending what CLG can do.
Maybe we could, you know, have a 75-minute game 2, followed by a 58-minute game 3. You know? Man, if that happens, I'm going to be in so much trouble.
Curse.
First of all, I'm going to be miserable because that's a lot to cast. Secondly,
oh, that was 4 hits. I said 2 to 3.
Yeah.
Close.
Pretty close. But secondly, I mean, then Hindu Man's going to take me off the script share. I'm not going to be able to see what's going on. That'll be annoying. Like, I really hope that.
Oh, so we're not telling the folks at home that Dignitas is winning this year's Worlds?
No, not yet. No, they have to find that out later on. Does Dignitas know they're winning this year's Worlds? I don't know.
They believe it.
We got to get to DreamHack Atlanta this time around first. Though it feels like they are in a pretty good position.
They're pretty much
feels like they are pretty good. Near confirmed for the top end. In fact, they might be already guaranteed. I believe they still have 2 games next week. We don't have the sheets in front of us, so we'll have to wait and see. Maybe Finch and Taco can let us know.
I think
on
they're
the desk.
7-1.
We'll certainly be covering it next week on Esports Weekly. Tuesday, 10 a.m. That'll give us all your information on the SPL, SCL, SML, SGS. It's a lot of leagues you got to keep up with, so that's why Esports Weekly is there for you. Also, we'll go over all the clinching scenarios and all that kind of good stuff. And we're back! Fire Giant pulled by Spacestation Gaming, and they've got great DPS coming from andinster's crits. fineokay getting closer, but not close enough. SSG get the Fire Giant, but Ven already poked down to about half HP. fineokay lurking in the waters to try and get away, and SSG gets to stand firm and not really give up a lot.
I mean, they can't really cut the distance that much. Only andinster can go there with Sonic Boom, Venenu transforming into andinster, and then the rest of the teammate not able to follow up. So instead, Spacestation playing very methodical, going to chip away at this last remaining Tier 2 tower. CLG not going to be worried about playing defense there. Not too many minions for Spacestation on the left, so they're going to concentrate more on the solo/mid side instead.
No more towers for them to take down. Not a lot of gold left on the map for them to take. Could be a Gold Fury potentially if they need to finish off some last items. And look at that. That's exactly where andinster is going. This will be Gold Fury number 3 for Spacestation. They've gotten 3 out of 4 that have been brought down in this game.
Rod of Tahuti now completed for BaRRaCCuDDa, so that's a solid
That's pretty good.
pickup, yeah.
That's not a bad item. Oh, so does Ven. Ven has one as well.
They're feeling good about
The
that.
dueling rods right now for Spacestation between the 2 magical damage dealers. And they've got great balance in terms of physical damage that they can put out because andinster is all done with Rage and with Deathbringer so far. Though I don't know about going Rage in a 12-kill, 29-minute game. You know, he's not getting the stacks.
I mean, it's still 30% base critical strike, though.
Yeah, that's not too bad.
So, with or without that extra 10%, I think andinster is going to be A-okay.
He's doing fine for himself. There's no doubt about it. He's had some excellent Sonic booms. BaRRaCCuDDa as well has had a great game. 4-0-2, top of the player damage charts. This is what you almost needed to see if you're a Spacestation Gaming fan, is BaRRaCCuDDa stepping up and having a good set.
I mean, CLG banned away the Baron and the Chernobog, giving up the Freya. So, I mean, what, do you take away the Freya, give up Chernobog, where BaRRaCCuDDa is still going to have global pressure instead of the magical burst damage? Or do you give up the Baron to allow JeffHindla the same amount of control that he had in the last game, even more sustained?
Yeah, it's tough. I think that I'd rather put Spacestation on Chernobog than Freya. Ven has played the Chernobog the majority of the times that Spacestation has got it, if my memory serves. And Ven has certainly had great performances on it, but I think I'd rather have him be Chernobog right now than a 6-slotted Morrigan.
Fair enough. But the 6-slotted Morrigan is going to be able to play a lot of setup with her stealth, depending on some of these sieges, how they translate. 3-2 split. Sorry, make that a 4-1 split.
Whoa.
As andinster's rotating to the left, looking for
Venenu,
it.
it transforms and drops that Earth in Fury. Homiefe joining in, trying to get andinster down. That'll cost Andy the Aegis, but not enough damage quite yet in order to find that kill. Sonic Boom expended as well. Venenu has got to use the relics, and he still gets eaten alive by fineokay. Homiefe going forward with that volcanic lightning. Big damage on the BaRRaCCuDDa, but not quite enough. JeffHindla able to peel him away. Snoopy able to get nice and close, use that backfire, but Hurry falls to Aqua towards the mid lane. BaRRa does eventually fall, but it costs some Homiefe. Snoopy not quite executed, but Aqua still finds himself a double kill. The 2 damage dealers down for Space Station, but they're still surging forward.
The cripple is going to catch fineokay. Special delivery, and then trying to catch Jigz. He's going to get rooted in place. Phoenix switching the aggro to Jeff. This is going to allow andinster for the dive, and that's going to be a deicide. Space Station Gaming are looking to catch up to Splice.
That sets the stage. Space Station Splice, tune in next week for the Battle of the Heavyweights. Winner all but guarantees their spot at DreamHack Atlanta this year. The loser will drop down to placements. SSG 2-0 Counter Logic Gaming, and now have to prepare for their biggest set of the year.
Things are looking on the up and up for Space Station Gaming. It wasn't a pretty performance because CLG put up quite a fight despite that early first blood onto Homiefe's Pele. Hurriwind made some good plays, being able to steal the Gold Fury, being able to force andinster's beats on multiple occasions. And when you're a Mercury trying to make those plays, you're less confident using that Sonic Boom to dive the backline. So it slowed down some of the early momentum out of Space Station. But once it came to late game, BaRRa's damage was just unreal.
Too much to handle, that's for sure. BaRRaCCuDDa has a great game, finishes at 4-1. Was he your MVP? Let us know in the Mixer chat. Again, I do want to iterate CLG. It's a loss, but I think they did look better than their setup against Splice. Is that because Splice is the stronger team right now, or because CLG improved during the week? We'll have to wait and see until next week who's better between Splice and SSG. But both teams take care of business. Splice able to upset E United, and Space Station do what they needed to up against CLG. Let's throw it to the desk to break it down.
Well, it's 2 runaway trains on the same track, almost, Taco, as Space Station and Splice. That's right, they're on a collision course right now after a very strong win here over CLG. Taco, this Space Station team, man, it's up and down, I feel like. They look so good here up against CLG, but then there's some sets where you're like, I don't know if they can get it done. I mean, is this still a top 2 team for you? Can they beat out Splice? Do you think they can get that spot? Where do you see this team at right now?
I don't feel very confident in answering that question right now.
It's so tough
I know
to
that
say.
You're putting me on the spot, and I gotta give you a yes or no one way or the other, but I feel like Space Station still have the potential to reach that top 2 status. I do not think that they are currently there, but there's still a little bit of grind time that'll be taking place leading up into the placement rounds, and possibly even Space Station not even having to attend those, depending on how next week pans out.
That's right. They certainly can still avoid those placement stages. That big matchup is going to be coming next week. But again, today, we saw a strong performance out of all of Space Station, but particular BaRRaCCuDDa getting the Freya and getting the work done here in this game. And we saw him several times using the ultimate to get away from danger, finding and weaving in the shots. Remember, he was up against Snoopy on the magical Hunter this time. He was playing the Vulcan over the dual lane, something we do occasionally see, and BaRRaCCuDDa was just putting in the work.
BaRRa just felt like unanswered from CLG. They just did not really seem like they knew how to respond to this Freya, and every time they did, it usually just ended up with Space Station being able to find even more return kills in the process because they would spend so much time trying to pinpoint BaRRa down and keep him confined with crowd control that it just gave Space Station plenty of time to rotate in. Although there were some promising moments from Game 2.
Sure.
For instance, Hurriwind with that awesome Gold Fury steal off the Hail of Arrows. I thought that was a great moment, but it just didn't really feel like CLG were really able to capitalize off of it.
Yeah, they definitely didn't seem like they were close in. I mean, it is tough when you're playing a game where you have to worry about double Mercury ultimates from the Morrigan and from andinster. That certainly doesn't make your life any easier, as CLG had a tough time with this one, but Space Station continued to look strong. Let's look back over the whole week of action, though, that we've seen leading up to this point. Remember, Space Station just beat CLG here today. They also beat LG earlier today. That keeps them in contention to fight with Splice, who also had a good week beating CLG and beating E United. Those two are so close.
A couple of close calls throughout the week, in fact, but this is all leading up to that final showdown, Finch. Week 6 is going to be a calamity of emotions. I don't even want to start thinking about it because the standings are just so incredibly close here in North America. It is all riding on that Splice Space Station set.
It absolutely is for Space Station's chances for trying to get that win. You can see where they are, but it looks like even if Space Station win it and it puts down Splice on the 6-3, they could still grab one more win on the back end, and then you'd be seeing the tiebreaker going the way of Space Station. So it's so much important on that matchup, and Splice being able to win there. It's just so tough between these teams. Let's take a look at the next schedule here, though, at a chance at what matches are going to be coming in Week 6. We've already talked about it. We've been building it up, that Space Station Splice set happening on Wednesday, but that's not the only big one. Dignitas are going to play up against Obey. Obey really need SK to somehow get a win over Energy Taco. They're praying for that to happen.
SK are going to need a little bit more than prayers, but just heavy preparation to take on Energy. I definitely think that it's possible. You never know if Energy might end up slipping up for even just one game.
Yeah. They absolutely could. I'm right there with you, and SK Gaming would capitalize on it. So just a match full of important, or a week rather, full of important matchups going to be coming later on here in the week. Let's go ahead and take a look, though, at what these teams are all trying to fight towards. That's going to be DreamHack, happening November 16th through 18th. hi-rez.expo.com. Open it up in a new tab. Tickets are on sale right now. Make sure that you are in attendance. You do not want to miss these excellent players clashing in the biggest arena of the year.
It's going to be a lot of fun, I can assure you of that. And just in case you didn't have enough fun throughout the main event, you can have even more at the after party that'll be taking place shortly after the conclusion of Worlds.
That's right, a chance to kind of hang out and party with everybody. HRX afterparty.eventbrite.com to pick up those tickets. It's only $50, and that'll get you in there to party with everybody else. But you really do want to be at DreamHack this year. The way the placement stages are working, I think we have a chance to have our most competitive HRX and DreamHack event that we have ever seen up until this point.
Oh, without a doubt, actually. I'm right there with you, Finch, because the placement stages are going to be crucial to determine who actually winds up meeting with the other teams from the top 2 regions that end up auto-qualifying into Worlds from the get-go.
You're not going to want to miss a minute of the Week 6 action. That's going to be kicking off for you again, at least SPL-wise, on Tuesday. We'll have console on Monday as well. But thank you all for joining us this entire week for the SPL action. I appreciate you all being here. That's going to do it for us today. Y'all have a good night, and peach it.